Hey everybody, welcome back to the Paranormal Rush Hour. I'm your host, Ryan Rush, and it's really good to be back. I'm really stoked to be here talking to you guys again. I took a little time off, and I really didn't mean to take that long off. I didn't realize how long it had been, actually, but I haven't even been in my studio in like a couple months. So and I didn't really even think about it being that long. It was just like things had gotten, you know, in the way. Like I got busy with work and life and whatever, and just didn't have much time. And now I'm going to make time to make sure that I don't take that much time off again. But anyway, I'm really glad that everybody who is watching me is still here watching me. Um, I'm really just so stoked that I actually have people that will watch what I have to say, listen to what I have to say, watch what I have to say, watch me while I say what I have to say. Anyway, yeah, I really am though. And the fact that I had actually gained subscribers without putting out a new episode in forever had really inspired me to come and do a new episode. I was like, well, these people are, obviously I'm not that bad, so I think I'll just come and give them something new to watch. So anyway, I hope it lives up to the past greatness that I put out there. Oh no, man, for real though. Okay, I want to talk tonight about this whole interest in cryptids now, like, and not just that, but I want to talk about the Men in Black too, and I'll get to how these are going to coincide. But these topics, they've always been relevant, but I'll get to why I'm talking about them both in the same show. Anyhow, over like the past 10 years, cryptid, or actually the paranormal subject in general, has just gained a whole lot of steam. Like people are really into it now. Like for instance, I don't watch a whole lot of TV at all, really. Um, but I was sometimes I'll have some downtime at work or something, and I'll check whatever's on out. But anyway, I was watching like the Travel Channel. That's what I usually turn it to, and it seems like there is nothing on but paranormal stuff on that channel. It's like they should just totally ditch the Travel Channel thing and just call it like weird TV or something, because that is what it's turned into. It's become this just hub for like paranormal shows, ghost shows, you know. I mean, I guess it's kind of relevant because I do travel to different places to do this stuff. So, you know, they technically can still call it the Travel Channel and it'll be relevant. But still, they should call it like the Traveling Paranormal Channel or something. I don't know, Paranormal Travels Channel, something like that, because that's all there is. I mean, seriously, you've got shows about ghosts left and right on that channel, and it's not just them. I mean, there's a lot of other channels that have these types of shows on now too. I think they just probably have the most. But anyhow, there's been a big increase in interest in the paranormal subject in general, especially in the last few years, like the last 3 or 4. I've noticed a big uptick in people's interest, and I think a lot of it is because of exposure, for one thing, because so many people are exposed to it now who really weren't exposed to it before, not like they are now. They I mean, people were exposed to it, but it's prevalent now. And multiple subjects are prevalent now. And I think that's because of the internet and social media mostly. Social media, especially, like if you go on YouTube, I mean, well, YouTube is social media now, pretty much. But if you go on like Facebook and look at, the groups and stuff that they have for paranormal thing, you've got a group for everything. I mean, that's another thing. A lot of these people will gain like a certain little bit of interest in one thing, and then they'll go and seek that out on social media, and that's when they start falling down the rabbit hole and they find out about this and that and this and that, and then they've got this whole new plethora of interests that of things they've never heard about, and they're just learning about, and it's consuming them, and that's what happens to a lot of people. um, I've noticed that a big increase in like cryptids. So people talking about like Dogman, Sasquatch, of course, it's probably the cryptid, but Mothman, Loch Ness monster, giants, and um, little people. Man, there is a big surge of interest in little people, and that's very interesting to me. I'm thinking some of that may have to do with like people seeing Hellier, which I really enjoyed that. I watched it recently. I binged it because a few people recommended it to me, and one person specifically recommended it to me, and she was telling me a lot about it, and so I was like, well, I've got to check this out, and I'm glad I did because it was very interesting, very entertaining. I liked it. And anybody who's watching this, you're the type of person that would like it, so go check it out if you haven't seen it. Anyhow, it's interesting because it really kind of documents going down the rabbit hole, finding different things out of one, starting on one thing and finding different things that spawn from it. That's a lot about what it is, and this this whole subject is like that. Once you start on one thing, you're gonna get sucked into another one because they're so closely related. I mean, UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, spirits, it's all intertwined and all interconnected in some way. And you're going to end up getting into every bit of that if you start one thing. So, you know, I think that has a whole lot to do with the interest in it. But also, the availability of cameras is, I mean, everybody's got one now. You most likely own a camera which is fully capable of producing high quality video and imagery. And you can definitely take good photos of something like immediately when you see it because you've typically got a camera that's always on in your pocket or on your person somewhere or near your person somewhere or some person somewhere close to you's got one. And I mean, it's just, they're everywhere and they're always ready. And when you see something strange, now you can show everybody else what you're seeing. And I think, that also leads me to something I was thinking about. A lot of images are legitimate. There are people, and you're more capable than ever of hoaxing stuff now because of, digital photography, digital imagery. And software and computers and stuff make it possible, completely possible, to recreate things or to add things, whatever, alter images. You know, graphics are prevalent. I mean, people know how to work that stuff, but a lot of people don't and wouldn't go through the effort it takes to create stuff like that. Um, it just, it's not something that normal people do, like nobody I know could do it, honestly. Like nobody I can think of right off the top of my head would know how to do that and make it convincing. You still have to have some knowledge in it. You can't just blindly go and create a hoax unless you dress somebody up as something and go take a picture of it or whatever. But to do it with, like, create images with like CGI or even like copying and pasting and stuff like that, it's just not worth the time, and people would most likely be able to tell when it's faked. A lot of the time they can. It has to be good these days. But that being said, I think a lot of images are not faked these days. I think that a lot of them are authentic, and I think a lot of people know deep down when something's authentic and when it's not. If you listen to your intuition and your gut when you see something, and not your brain and your excitement for overseeing it, then you can kind of discern better what's fake and what's not. And I've noticed that a lot when I see pictures these days. But how you feel determines a lot about their authenticity, I think. Initially, when you see it, your initial reaction is one you should probably go with. But you know, that's that's one of the things that's caused everything to, you know, kind of we've been desensitized from seeing it so much now. That's what it is. And it's really cool because I never thought I'd see the day when we could actually take a picture of something and then like instantly upload it to a platform where the whole world could see it if they wanted. Like no one's off limits from seeing it. And you're just broadcasting it to, a billion people, like right there. And it's insane to me how that has happened. I mean, it's really cool though, because it's I don't know. I mean it's cool, but it's also weird because now we're learning that there are more things out there. I think that's what I was trying to say. Like, we're figuring it out because of the accessibility of seeing it. And this is the thing, um, videos and pictures used to be things that they wanted to keep very quiet. They didn't want people seeing it. They didn't want the public to be in an uproar about it. A few times, sometimes, things would get leaked out, but people weren't desensitized to it like they are now. Like, you can put up a million pictures of Bigfoot, and people are just going, oh, it's a picture of Bigfoot, 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 whatever. They're not going to be like, whoa, you know, all like freaked out because they just saw a picture of a Sasquatch. It's not like that anymore. I mean, it'd have to be a very, very intriguing video to get people to react like that. Whereas, you know, 60 years ago, people would flip. They'd be like, what? And that was because it wasn't available to see like it is now. I remember like the days of cameras when cameras were like more of a luxury item. They were like an auxiliary item. You didn't carry a camera with you everywhere unless you were just a complete professional photographer. You didn't carry a camera on you all the time. You took it to certain places like family events, holidays, uh, taking the kids to the fair or some crap, something like that where you were going to want to take pictures. And you were a lot more selective of what you took pictures of because film cost money. You had to buy the film and then you had to get the pictures developed. And that cost money too, if you wanted to keep the pictures. So, you didn't go and waste a whole lot of pictures like you do now. You can take 100 pictures of something and pick out the three good ones and dump everything else, and there you go. Doesn't cost you a thing unless you're buying the, photo stock to print it on in the ink. I mean, it's crazy how things have changed. I remember like the first cell phone with a color screen that came out. I think it was like 2003 or 2004 probably. And all it had was a color screen. I don't even think it had a camera on it. I can't remember, but I don't think it did. It was a Motorola phone. I remember, and it came from Nextel, or it went to Nextel. A friend of mine bought one right when it came out, and their selling point was like the first color screen or whatever. And I want to say she paid like $430 for that thing. It was insane how much she paid for that phone. And all it had was a color screen. But to us who were used to seeing this, green and black screen on our cell phones, she had like this picture of a freaking palm tree and a beach, and we were like, "What? That's crazy!" It was interesting though. It was a flip phone, I remember, like a silver one. But that's another thing too with the whole like two-way thing. I had one, of course, and everybody I knew had one, and which is why I had one. It was convenient because especially if like you worked in a big place like I did at the time, you know, you communicated back and forth with those things. And it was so much easier to like find people or to, you know, look across the building, look in the other buildings and ask them where they were on the two-way or whatever. I mean, you didn't have to go looking around, and it was just so much more convenient. And then those things go away, which, I mean, I know they're not completely gone, but what I'm saying is like, I thought that every phone was going to end up with one of those on it because it seemed like a much more convenient way than just calling someone. But it didn't quite work out like that, and it went right back to cell phones. And then we take another step back and just start typing to each other through text messaging, which is probably the most common form of communication now. Uh, Typing to each other. How did we think that that was more convenient than voice messaging? You know, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, it just seems almost like a digression when you look at it like that. But anyway, um, yeah, that's my little trip down nostalgia lane. I don't want to make this show about that crap. So anyway, I remember though all those things because I'm an Xennial, and we're actually the generation between Generation X and the Millennials. We're a micro generation, I think is what they call it. Like there's a few years where if you were born in between these years, you remember no technology and the birth of technology, pretty much. It's crazy. I mean, I remember, and if you think about it, it wasn't that long ago when the first like Android phone came out or the iPhone. Um, I remember I had the first Android phone, the G1, the first Google phone, and HTC made it. And I remember I got that phone and I loved it. It was an awesome phone. It had that little flip screen that went up, and you had your physical keyboard, which I miss a lot. But anyway, yeah, I remember that. And I wasn't but like 2009, I think, when I got one of those. It was way. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. You know, it was a lot shorter time than people think. I mean, we've only had this stuff for about a decade, and it's just changed so much since then. You know, of course, our phones had cameras and stuff then, but they didn't have cameras that shoot cinema quality video like my phone will now. I mean, it's insane. You know, we weren't shooting anything at 60 FPS back then, and now I have a cell phone that'll do it. And that's what's so interesting and so crazy about how technology has progressed. You know, the cameras we have are perfectly capable cameras, and back in the day when digital cameras first came out, like the type of camera that's on our phone now would have cost us like 10 grand or something, you know, if it were even available back then. And it would have been an expensive camera. And now you got them just sitting there in your cell phone and something the size of a smartphone. That's crazy when you think about it. It's also really cool, and it also allows us to see so much more than we ever could have seen otherwise. So, I mean, in general, it was a good thing, but it's also made it to where now you really would have to see something insanely crazy to have them threaten you not to put it up on the internet or something, you know? And even then, they would have a hard time controlling that. But that's the thing, like, okay, what do they do now? Like, what do the men in black do now? Because they used to come and see you and they would confiscate whatever that you had, evidence, film, whatever you had, pictures that could, you know, indicate that there is extraterrestrial life or could prove the existence of Sasquatch or something like that. You know, I mean, I've been broadcasting stuff forever. I mean, things that they would have tripped out about back in the day, you know, 60 years ago. Now it's like an everyday thing to post a picture of a Squatch print, or, something like that, or even a picture of a Sasquatch. It's, which I've done, I've posted, and it's just like whatever. So people are really desensitized to it now. It's become a big uh, commonality in a way. But they've also gotten to where they're learning that other things exist because of it. And, that's one thing about Hellier that was so cool, because Hellier, like, when you watch it, you can see you know, the way it progresses, and the way the rabbit hole just opens up for them. Like, you get led here, and then you check that out and you find out there's something interesting about it, which leads to this other thing that you don't know about. And now you're like, whoa, I wonder about that. And so you just keep going and going and going. And eventually you get to something that's just so off the wall and so crazy, you have a hard time believing it. And you know how it goes. I'm sure most of you watching this know how that goes. But it was documented on there, and it's still not over. I mean, they they could still be. I think they're still gonna be doing this stuff. But anyway, it's it's interesting though how it feeds you like that. Anyway, the Men in Black though, if someone saw a UFO back in the day, they they'd like come and see you, and if you got some sort of evidence, I mean, depending on what it was and stuff and what happened, for a little sighting, they probably wouldn't. But if you saw one blow up, or you saw something odd happen with one, yeah, you'd get a visit, and you'd be threatened, and things would be confiscated if you had them. You know, it was crazy, and they're still around, I'm sure, but I don't know what their purpose really is now, what they're trying to keep people from now, in this current stage that we're in, this current age that we're in with the paranormal. It's really something to think about, because they still exist, but what are they protecting? What are they keeping you from? That's the question now, I think, that we need to be asking about it. But it's weird because they they come and see certain people, and still, and these people have seen things that are crazy, but what have they seen that's so crazy that they can't let it out? Or they may have come and seen me and wiped my memory. Who knows? But I've seen some things. Well, I'll get into that in a minute about the Men in Black encounters. That's kind of neat. That's always interested me big time, knowing that there's something out there that controls this stuff, or tries to control it, or control the people that see it. Who knows? But now they're having a real hard time doing that, I'm sure, because it's not like it used to be. They're not able to control it like they used to, because it's everywhere. They can't stop it. They've even admitted it. I mean, look at how they've admitted UFOs are real now. They couldn't keep hiding it, especially after like the Nimitz encounters and stuff. They could not keep denying that. And now they have a protocol for pilots to report them. And pilots are coming out, by the handfuls, telling about their UFO encounters up there in the sky. When you spend that much time in the air, you're bound to see stuff, weird stuff. Just like when you spend that much time in the woods, you're bound to see something weird, and that's where a lot of other weird things live. It's really interesting to me because the woods, I mean, there's something about it with all the stuff that lives there. And I've thought before, I've wondered, is that like the only place really where portals, dimensional portals, interdimensional portals like they would use, if that theory is correct, is that like the only place that they exist? Or can they be formed anywhere? Or are there certain locations? I've thought about portals a lot, especially lately. And that's another thing that people have accepted a lot. the portal theory has become much more accepted than I ever thought it would be. That's another thing that just really is weird. How I never thought people would go for that. As many people that go for it as there are now, is what I mean. I never thought that, you'd see that many people buying into a portal theory. But man, there's a lot of people that believe that they exist. And they probably, I know they do. But I'm not going to get into what I know right now. I'm going to talk about, um, you know, how the Men in Black encounters go these days. It seems that they use mostly mind control. I think they used to use more intimidation practices. But now I think they use mind control if they don't want someone to know something or spread some information or something like that. I think that there's a lot of that going on. And it's because there's this, and the reason I think that is because, I've heard it a lot, and everything comes from something. Every idea comes from something. And you've seen, where memories can be wiped and stuff like that. And I think that can definitely happen. Personally, this is what I feel. I think it's quite possible. Now, their own encounter videos are another thing that people, spread around and have become desensitized to and accustomed to seeing. You've got that video of the Men in Black in the hotel where I've got an interesting email to read about this actually from someone. They sent it to me a few days ago. It's really, really neat. The only person I've ever known who has actually seen them themselves. But it's really weird because the hotel footage, there's like a hotel in Canada where they got, CCTV footage of them coming through the doors of the hotel. And these dudes look the part, for sure. But I wish I could remember why I was even talking about that footage. I got off on got sidetracked on the email thing. But anyway, um, you know, everything's just, it's really different now. And that's the thing that makes me wonder why they would still go after somebody for knowing something or seeing something or spreading some sort of information. Uh, One of the things in particular is like Dan Aykroyd. He had that, the actor Dan Aykroyd had that experience with them, that encounter where he's told about it millions of times, where he was doing that show, like some kind of paranormal show that he was hosting, and I think it focused heavily on like UFOs and stuff like that. Well, there was he had like gone outside to make a phone call or something, and he noticed this car over like parked across the road, like in like Crown Victoria or something like that looked all government, looking, and like a black car. And I don't remember if he actually saw people in it or something, but uh, he went back in the studio after the phone call or something, and the show had just been canceled. They had just gotten done recording the last episode of it or something like that too, and they hadn't even aired it. It was like set to air like soon after they had finished that episode, and they never aired it. They said the show's canceled and we gotta get rid of everything, all the footage. So that's weird, and it makes me wonder what they were actually like gonna show on it and how much crazier it is than what we see on TV now. I mean, was it that much crazier, that groundbreaking? Now, I can't remember how many years ago this was, but I don't think it was that long ago. I know it was over 5 years ago, I'm sure. And that right there will just show you how far we've actually come. If that happened just 5 years ago, and now we're at this point where, you can see everything and see it instantly. I mean, it's not like you have to wait to see stuff. When you record it, you can upload it immediately to a platform where a billion people are going to see it. So it's not like you can't get it out there immediately. So I don't see how they can really control stuff like they used to. So really, they have no choice but to start admitting things and things they used to cover up and threaten people with their lives, over. I mean, now it's just like widely accepted stuff. So it's really weird to me how this has happened, and we're in this age now where it's accepted to be able to talk about stuff like this, and it used to be completely taboo in society when you'd have someone talking about this kind of stuff. You know, it's so weird. But I don't know. I don't know why it's. I mean, it's all changed because of the accessibility and availability to it. But you know, the another thing I wanted to talk about though regarding them and their footage. There's this one video that I think it came out, about a year ago. So it hasn't been out that long. And it was where this girl who was working in like a law office or something up in Alaska was visited by an MIB. And it shows the video goes like this dude's recording a computer screen of the security camera footage of this happening. And he was like a security guard or something there and working there, but he was like whispering, being all covert about it, and it it was kind of weird the way he was doing this. But this girl had gone missing, like like she left work with this dude in a black suit, and she was behaving like really strangely. Like, and he shows this whole footage. I'll see if I can. I'll like find the video and link it in the description to this, so you guys can watch it if you want to, if you haven't seen it. Um, I mean, it's interesting. It's entertaining to watch, regardless of its authenticity. So I'll link it for you. But anyway, yeah, she has this encounter with him and like pulls out a gun out of the drawer and stuff because he started freaking her out. And he's just very, very calm about everything. And he like moves his hand or something, and she puts the gun down and then goes to her purse and picks out a camera, leaves her purse sitting there, picks her camera up, and walks out the door with the guy. And they hadn't seen her since, that happened at the time or whatever. It had been like a day or something. I don't know. But it was really weird because she had it. There was an interview on the channel, and it was this girl. They had ended up getting in touch with her somehow and interviewing her. And if it was staged, man, it was really well done. Like, these people knew their parts, and it was very, very well done. This girl is a tremendous actress if this was staged, but they do like an interview, and it's where she explains what happened, and she's talks about all this mind control and stuff. If I can find that video, I'll link it in the description below the other one so you guys can watch it also if you're interested. And yeah, it was neat what she said though, because she was talking about that the thing that they wanted was a picture of a cave. Like, she had gone into a cave with friends of hers, like when they were camping. They went camping or something, and she woke up, like, and I think went on a hike by herself into this cave and took some pictures of something like on the wall or some formation or something in there. And they wanted those pictures of the cave. That was what was weird. And this is another thing that, I kind of started putting together when I was watching Hellier, because I had seen that. Okay, I had seen the thing about that, and I was like, well, this is really weird because they're talking about caves in Hellier too. I mean, the whole thing centers around caves. And this girl was talking about this cave or whatever. Okay, it was really weird because they I don't there's something about caves, and I've been seeing a lot about them lately too. Um, I saw this map recently of at first it had David Paulides' cluster map up there above a map of the cave systems in the U.S. And it's so weird because the map he made of these clusters and where the people went disappeared and all that, it coincides perfectly with the cave system map. Everywhere that there's a major cave system, there are clusters of missing people. And like right through the middle, where there's no people, I mean, hardly anybody has gone missing, it's like no caves right there. There's like two or three. It's weird how these things match up. And you guys can check it out. Just Google it or something. And maybe I'll link it too if I can find it or something. Find a link to it. But it was neat seeing that because I had never really thought about it, looking at it and putting those two things together. The cave thing and the disappearances coinciding like they did. It was eerie looking. Like, I mean, almost perfect. So there's something to that, I think. Caves in general, though, being such a hot topic right now, there's something to it. There's got to be something to it. And it's weird because the cave system that they were exploring, I think, is one of the biggest ones too. Like where they had gone, and there were a lot of old mining shafts and stuff, like in this town that they're at in Hellier, Kentucky. Um, in that show, but the whole show, it covered a lot of different things, and it was really weird how they put certain aspects of things in there with it. Like, for instance, the balloons. Like, they put mylar balloon things, like references in there, or they just find them randomly and stuff. Like, almost like it was a Sasquatch kind of thing or something. Like how I've recorded, you know, several balloons that I've found just in the middle of the woods, mylar deflated mylar balloons like that I've found out there in the middle of like active Sasquatch areas, places where they are for sure hanging out. And it's weird, they've got a thing for it, but they put that kind of stuff in there. I was like, but anyway, they included a lot of interesting things. They made it really interesting. But that Alaska footage, this chick, man, she had when she was doing this interview, I mean, if she was faking it, she was doing a great job. She really was. So I encourage anybody to check that out if you're interested in stuff like that. I mean, whether it's real or not, it's entertaining. And I'll link it in the description if you guys are interested, for sure. Um, I want to read this email actually. That It's one of my longtime subscribers who sent this to me. Uh, I had seen this, and oh man, it was really crazy because I had no idea that she had been through something like this. But anyway, I'm gonna read this email for you, and you guys can tell me what you think about it in the comments. So it starts off: when I was a kid, my father was an amateur ufologist. Ufologist. We would search the skies for ships and lights. Back then, most of the lights were red, and this was a while back. This wasn't anytime recent. Um, the let's see. Back then, most of the lights were red. One watched. Let's see. Sorry. One night we saw lights hovering over a nearby mesa. We watched them zip to and fro for some time. The next morning, we got a call to come look at something up on that same mesa. I remember the guy saying his cattle were mooing and acting up most of the night. On the ground in the roadway was a circle of burnt gravel. It was about 14 feet in diameter with a straight line off to one side. A strange smell was in the air. My father was ex-Air Force, and he had called someone to come see what we had found. I remember 3 or 4 men, all dressed in black, coming to the scene. Adults coming to the scene, and adults talking to them. And that's the thing. She was a kid when this happened. And adults were talking to them. And in the meantime, I was curious about the gravel. I've always been interested in rocks, so I bent down to pick one up to keep. The gravel was so burned, it crumbled in my hand. Then the adults were done talking, and on the way home, I remember my father saying they took his film and everyone else's film and threatened jail time if anyone ever talked about this incident. So that was like, that's pretty crazy, you know. And I totally believe her because I've known her for a while, and every time I've talked to her about this stuff, through like private messages and stuff, not this specifically, but anything through private messages, she doesn't BS about this kind of stuff. She knows how it is. But anyway, I'll show you the picture she sent me too. It's pretty neat because she drew what it looked like on a picture of some gravel. Anyway, that's what she sent me. That's what it looked like. I guess hold it that way. Should be. Anyway, that's it right there. I know you guys can probably see that really great, but anyway, that's what it looked like. And she also told me they took the gravel. Like, they didn't leave any of that for anyone else to find, which I thought was really crazy. I was like, man. So I know she's not making that up, and she believes that it was the Men in Black that came. And it was around the time period where they would have wanted to keep something like that under wraps, where they would not want a bunch of people talking about that kind of stuff happening, But it also seems, another thing, it also seems like UFOs are always involved with other cryptid activity and paranormal stuff, especially cryptid stuff. But I know that, I've talked about it before, the one that I saw out here over one of the most active areas out here. And I saw that thing just shoot down out of the sky, like past that really like fast, rapidly pulsating light that was in the sky. Like, I saw that upside down semicircle thing just like fly right past it. Had those tails coming off of each side and stuff. It was really weird. I've never seen anything like that. And I cannot tell you what it was. And it was like transparent almost, just a shade lighter than the sky. And I won't ever forget it. Like, I can just see that thing shooting down just over and over in my head. It's not something I'll ever be able to get out of my head. So that was really crazy too. There's so much stuff that, there's no way I could have gotten a picture of that unless I had actually been recording a video like of that thing at that time, and I had a camera that was capable enough of picking up something that light in such low light conditions. A dark sky. I would have had to had some kind of just insanely amazing camera, but I didn't. Anyway, That's just some things I've been thinking about, though, with the way that they used to handle things and the way that things are handled now. They're just totally different. I mean, people had always, there's like one story, I guess, about the Men in Black, which really intrigues me because it was, it was like almost like the dude was just talking about how saying this, to illustrate how crazy things get when they come and threaten people or whatever. But there was some kind of doctor or somebody who ended up having someone was wanting to send some information to them or something about a UFO sighting or something like that, and the MIBs end up coming and seeing him or something, and he was a doctor, I want to say, but he had somehow this Man in Black knew that he had 2 cents in his pocket or something, and 2 pennies in his pocket. And I've heard this story told a few different times, but it was always the same type of way that they told this. He said that somehow the guy knew he had the money in his pocket, and he told him to take one of them out and put it in his hand. And he did, and then the guy made the coin, disappear. And he asked him if he had ever heard of what's his name, Barney Hill, the UFO abductee. And Betty and Barney Hill's story is crazy. But anyway, they asked if he had ever heard of him, and he said, "Yeah, I think he died recently." And the guy said, "Yes." He said, "Barney does not have a heart, just like you no longer have a coin." Like, yeah, he made like the coin. He said the coin ceased to exist or something. So he was like implying that this magic he was doing or something would be his demise, I guess, if he were to not destroy the evidence that he was about to receive or something. And it flipped this guy out bad enough to where, I mean, they said it flipped him out bad enough to where he did destroy every file he had on UFOs or something. And that happened to a lot of people who could have made breakthrough discoveries, had they not been, derailed by them. Things might have been a lot further along back then than they are now. And I think, a lot of this increase in technology might have something to do with them too. I mean, not the Men in Black, but with, extraterrestrial life giving us some of this information on how to make this kind of stuff, because this is stuff that was beyond comprehension back when I was younger. I mean, we didn't think anything like we have now would be available to us. And it's just unreal how fast it's come about. Considering what I could do on the first Android phone I had compared to what I'm doing on that one that I'm recording with right now, yeah, things have gone real fast with technological advancements. It's really crazy, guys. We're living in a different age right now. And I have a feeling things are going to get just insane, eventually. And probably sooner than later. But anyhow, that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. I don't think I want to go too much further with any of this stuff. And I'm going to do a show really soon on the little people, because that's a big topic right now, and it's something I've been researching a lot about, and I think I'm about ready to talk about that a little bit. So anyway, if you guys haven't seen Hellier, I recommend you go check it out because it was really cool. And I'm going to link those videos. I'm going to go search around for them, and if they still exist, if they're still up, I'm going to link the Men in Black videos in the description, so you guys can check those out if you feel inclined. And anyway, that's about it. But I'm also going to have a guest come in soon. I'm going to try to get a few of them in, a few people I know who have been through some crazy paranormal stuff, and get them to come in and tell their stories, or at least call them and tell their stories. I'm going to do one of the two. But anyway, that's about it, guys. I really appreciate everybody watching. I mean, honestly, you guys have no idea how much it means to me that I even have this many people watching what I'm doing. So I really appreciate that. And I hope that I can continue to pique your interest a little bit about this stuff. God knows there's enough strange stuff on this planet now that I should have plenty to talk about. But anyway, that's all I'm going to do for now. So I appreciate everybody watching, and I'll be back with you guys way sooner than I was this time. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys real soon.